I'm Gaz, and this is Let's Play Sengoku. First thing I want to say is that if you get easily frustrated or upset watching someone play a game poorly, do not watch this. I'm pretty much a noob at these kinds of games, but the first few episodes I wanted to do here are sort of a tutorial, so that I don't have to explain the game throughout the LP. So, first thing we see here is the map of Japan, and the first thing we need to do is pick who we are going to play as. Now, if you click to clans here, you can see all the various clans in Japan, and you can, just click on one and it tells you the relative difficulty. You can also just go straight to the Daimyo, and that breaks it down even further. And you can break it down into characters, which goes down into the really small little bits. And these tend to be like the Vassals. So you can play as a big clan. You can play as the Uesugi here, or you could just pick one of their vassals. And starting out as a vassal is, well, obviously it's really difficult, but it has a lot of disadvantages. The first being that you cannot control your own army, at least not until it's like 5% of your clan's army. And so if you are a vassal, one of the things you have to work towards is becoming a leader of a clan. So you can do that by breaking away and making a separatist clan, or you can try and fight a civil war and for control of your clan, or you can try and get one of your heirs in the line of succession for control of the clan. But it is generally just easier to start off as a clan leader. If you're really confused and just don't know where to start, the game suggests a few things for you. Now, they basically center around historical conflicts, but they all happen at the same time. So it's not like a different campaign. So if we look at the Onin War here, it also gives us suggestions of starting clan leaders. So if you pick like the Hosokawa, they're probably the easiest in terms of difficulty here. But I really don't know if this is true, because this difficulty is based on the fact that they have a lot of provinces, which means a better economy and a bigger army. But, if we look at it, they've got territories scattered out all over the place, and if you switch to the diplomatic view, they're at war with everyone. So, for a beginner, this is not easy. This is pretty overwhelming. I suppose once you know what you're doing, this might be easier, and I believe we're going to play as the Hosokawa during the LP, but for right now, for these early tutorials, I want to pick a smaller clan. I'm going to start with the Nambu up here. They are quite a bit more difficult, and mostly that has to do with the fact that they have no vassals, and the family is pretty small, which is pretty disadvantageous, because I played with these guys just as a test, and I made it to about here before I ran out of people. Like, I just ran out of family members. And so, it's really up to you how difficult you want to make the game on yourself. But let's go ahead and, just for the purposes of the tutorial, go in here. Alright. In Sengoku, you play a Japanese feudal lord struggling for ultimate power in a quest to become shogun. You can see your character portrait in the upper left corner. To become shogun, you and your vassals must together control at least 50% of Japan. After gaining control, you must claim the title of shogun and maintain control for 3 years. Beware, during this time your enemies will redouble their efforts to topple you. Yeah, so apparently, like, everyone in the game will just say, hey, let's go attack this guy. As a new feudal lord, you should start by appointing advisors via the court view and putting them to work. Then take a look at your neighbors and vassals to see who you have, or see who your friends and enemies are, and maybe launch a plot against those who would oppose you. It's a possible real-time strategy. You can speed it up, and it's a fully 3D map. Okay, Let's disable that. Okay, so first thing I like to do is come over here and click the Home Province button. And bring the map down here. That shows us where we are based. Now, when you click on these little provinces, it brings up the Kori, which are kind of like districts within a province. Each Kori has a corresponding Kokujin title, which implies ownership of the Kori. In this view, you can see the title holder over here, and his most important diplomatic relations. Each Kori can be upgraded with buildings. There are 3 types you can construct. The castle is upgraded by giving the task to your Master of Arms. Upgrading the castle gives you more troops as well as defensive benefits in a siege. The village is upgraded by your Master of Ceremonies. Village improvements give you more tax revenue and increase the supply limit. The supply limit determines how many active troops the Kori can support. Note that if you have more units than allowed, the soldiers will starve. Yeah, so that's important. That includes both yours and your opponent's provinces. So if you've got a huge army in there and their Kori can't support it, you're going to start losing soldiers. There are 4 guild slots where you can construct manufactories that increase the efficiency of your rule. These are down here. To create a guild, you must first give your guild Master of Ceremonies the task. This is wrong. It's not Master of Ceremonies, it's your Master of the Guard. The task of expanding a guild slot. After that, you can build a guild manufactory by clicking the open slot. It costs a lot of money though, so it's going to be a while before that actually happens, but it's a good idea just to open them up in your provinces to begin with, just to save time. Once Western influence spreads to your province, you can also build a gunsmith. Each Kori can have 1 religious building from one of the factions. If you build a temple, you will increase your relationship with that faction. And each, depending on which religion you choose, you also get a different bonus. We'll talk about religion later. Here you can also see the revolt risk in the province, which is right here. This is the risk that the local peasants will rise up. The chance can increase if you treat your population badly. If it gets too high, however, you can send your Master of Arms to suppress the rebels. If the population revolts, you can receive support from any of the religious factions, or they can receive support from any of the religious factions. The nearby temple will influence which faction supports the rebels. The strength of the revolt is influenced by your relation with that specific faction. If you have really bad relations, the revolt may grow quite large. Okay. So, you can also see the tax that you are getting, the supply limit, which, is how many soldiers it will support, your samurai levy, and your ashgara levy. Basically how many troops you can raise. These are, they're not really temporary, but they should be treated that way. You should never keep your levies, well, we'll talk about that when we get there. Okay. So, let's talk about the map modes. We've got the terrain, obviously, and you can zoom in quite easily, and by holding down Control, you can move the camera to get a horizontal view. Backspace goes to your normal view. Then you can look at your clans, so you can see which territory we own. Then you've got your domain. And this basically tells you which properties are, or which territories, which territories are under your direct control. And if we look at our guy here, we see that we can have a max size of 5, which means that if we conquer these guys, we will have 6 out of 5 possible territories, and that's going to cause unrest. One of the ways you can get rid of that is to give the province or the territory to one of your vassals, and that will also increase your honor, and it'll just, but the thing is that your vassal will control it. You will not. You will only have direct control over the 5 or however many territories you can own. And yeah, that's kind of a pain in the butt, especially when your vassal starts doing stupid things that cause a lot of unrest, and supposedly you can take it back from them, and the manual says that you don't need to, what's it called? You basically don't need their permission to get it back. You know, you don't need them to agree. But that is no longer true, because I tried that once, and they refused, of course, and that just caused bad relations, and I couldn't do anything about it. So that'd be nice if, you know, they did something about that, whether they actually made it match the manual or revised the manual. Okay, so we got the Kuni, which is basically the province, and the province name. Then you have your diplomatic, which will show you who you were friends with, who you were at war with. Right now, we don't have relations with anyone. Then you can come to your relationships, which basically tells you how everyone else feels about you. And right now, everyone's pretty neutral. Then you've got your religious factions, and right now we can see we've got the Shinto faction and the Buddhist factions. And eventually, when the Portuguese come, there will be the Christian factions. But yeah, these are areas that you want to pay attention to if you... Well, we'll talk about religion later, I guess. But you want to pay attention to that. And then, of course, there's revolt risks. Now, if we look, holy crap, the Osaki clan have a lot of revolt, and we can click on their territory and see why. If you mouse over this revolt risk, it will tell you that right now this guy is controlling too many Kori. That's why he's got the revolt. And the Shinto in the area are agitating. So this guy, Osaki Masakane, has more territories than he can actually handle, so he's probably going to have to start giving them off to vassals, but he doesn't have any vassals, as you just saw. You can kind of use this as an exploit to cause unrest in your neighbors' territories, but I don't really see that being... I mean, basically it sends one vassal against his liege and causes havoc. You know, it basically forces your opponent to focus on suppressing it. So, okay, so we come back here. First thing we need to do is open council positions. We need to fill our court. Court view. A daimyo cannot rule his country alone. He needs trusted advisors to do specific jobs. Each position is connected to a certain skill, so when you appoint a character, try to make sure they are both the most skilled character and someone you can trust. Okay. So, let's look at the Master of Ceremonies. What's the point? Master of Ceremonies handles negotiations and ceremonies at the court. To do this, you need a high diplomacy skill. He can improve a village, which includes managing building and infrastructure projects in a province, or in the village of a province. It will increase your tax base and your manpower. He can be sent as an envoy to a neighboring court to improve my relation with its master, and I can send him as an envoy to a province and squeeze extra taxes from a peasant. Be aware, however, that this can cause unrest. And that is something your vassals will tend to do, and it's annoying, because they'll send this guy to go collect taxes, and it'll cause unrest, and you can't tell him to knock it off. Anyway, let's appoint our first guy, and sort by diplomacy. We got a 10. It's always a good idea to get double digits if you can. So we see here we got Fusada, and you can see his relation with us. The first number is his opinion of us, which is 13. And our opinion of him is the next one, which is 28. So we think pretty highly of him. He's kind of indifferent to us. They've also got traits over here. He's a charismatic negotiator, and he's arbitrary. The traits, as you can see, give bonuses or penalties, but the traits themselves also affect how they interact with other characters. So if you've got like a kind person and someone who's greedy, that will affect them negatively. So